Going on, everyone? So the Los Angeles Lakers are officially in the offseason. The Denver Nuggets won the NBA championship. So now we can start focusing on what is going to happen and how are things going to play out for the Los Angeles Lakers in this offseason. Now, Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss have a lot to work on this offseason. I think the Lakers are very close to their desired goal. They were just in the Western Conference Finals. Rob Pelinka pulled magic and was able to put together a real team. And this team was able to overachieve and get into the Western Conference Finals after only playing like 10 games together fully healthy. And so there is a lot of thoughts of like, do the Lakers just stand pat? You know, you stand pat, you maybe add a guy or two, maybe go get a center or something like that, and you're off to the races. Draft your pick, all of that, and you're good to go, right? Like this team, full off season, full training camp, full preseason, full regular season. What is this team able to achieve once that happens? They build that chemistry, they build that camaraderie. And yes, you want to see core guys kind of stay together, right? Like look at Denver, who just won. Right? The Denver Nuggets, their core guys have been there for the last 5-6 years, and that was very noticeable, right? You saw times during the Nuggets and Lakers series where the Lakers looked out of sync at times because they just didn't have that chemistry where you looked at Denver and it was like, oh, they know where each other are without even knowing where each other are because they just have had those repetitions over and over and over again. So the Lakers do want to keep some cohesiveness, but if you can find upgrades and find trades and things like that to improve, then you absolutely want to do that, right? You don't want to force something and just do something just for the sake of it. Like, again, the Russell Westbrook situation. You want to kind of keep what the core guys are. Now, obviously, they got to repay pay, period. Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, those are huge priorities. Figure out what are you going to do with D'Angelo Russell. Are you working out a sign and trade? Are you going to keep him for the long term? Maybe look to move him at the trade deadline. If he has a really good season, do you keep him? What is the approach in that regard? But nothing is very likely going to happen until the draft, right? So the Lakers have technically 2 first-round picks in which they can trade. They can trade the 17th pick and they can trade the 29th pick, but they have to draft that 17th pick. So what could happen is you could get a trade at the day of the draft and where the Lakers basically draft for another team, right? So they draft some guy, let's say, whoever, pick your favorite draft pick at 17, right? So let's say Miller, right? Like the Lakers draft Miller, we're all, yay, Lakers draft Miller, but maybe it's not for the Lakers. Maybe it's for a said team, right? Whatever the piece is, whether it's for another star, whether it's for some added depth, some rotation, whatever. Very few things are going to happen between now and the draft. Maybe a couple slight things here and there, but nothing really significant will likely happen until the draft. And I'm excited to kind of see what are the prospects the Lakers look at. You also have undrafted free agents. The Lakers have been phenomenal in that market, in that pool of just finding those diamonds in the rough that can come in and really have an impact. I mean, look at Austin Reeves. He's about to get paid fat. You got guys like Max Christie, not undrafted, but a guy that could take that second-year stride as Austin Reeves did. He's got some nice intangibles, some nice tools. Our draft department, our development team, I trust wholeheartedly. Like, undoubtedly. They just have provided hit after hit after hit after hit and really know what they're looking for, finding that talent, and then developing those guys. And whether that's, using them eventually as a trade fodder to get a more significant established guy or a bigger star or something like that, as you saw with like an Anthony Davis, or just a guy that you plan on keeping for the long haul, like an Austin Reeves, something like that. Like that could be very significant. That could be very valuable for the Lakers going forward. Who knows what he develops into, a solid rotation guy. Lakers could also very likely just keep the 17th pick and the 47th pick, right? They could very likely just say, hey, like these are 2 young, cheap guys. We need to start building and taking into account things for beyond LeBron James. LeBron James has at least a year left, but what does he do the following year? Does he opt out and go play with his son? Does he retire? Does he opt back in and play with the Lakers? Within the next 2 years, LeBron James is very likely no longer going to be on the Lakers. So if you draft the guys now, well, now you have a guy for the next 2 years that you can grow, develop, and hopefully can make that transition once you go into the post-LeBron James era, that can come in and be a quality rotation guy and be a guy that can help impact the Lakers roster as you try to kind of retool post-LeBron James and hopefully can stay a playoff team and maybe even contention, right? Which isn't out of the realm of possibility. We'll see how Austin Reeves continues to improve. Rui Hachimura, how does he continue to improve? D'Angelo Russell, if they keep him, how does he continue to improve? Does Max Christie take that step and become, a 15-5-5 guy? He's already got the NBA level defense. He's elite defensively. A lot of question marks there. Now, there is a few things, like I said, that could happen between now and the draft. Chris Paul. Like, if Chris Paul gets waived, the Phoenix Suns have to figure out what they're going to do with him by the 28th of this month. So, at the time of recording this video, they have basically 2 weeks. So, in the next 2 weeks, you're going to find out what happens with Chris Paul. So, they could waive him at any point. They're trying to find a trade or something that they can use to basically leverage and get something of value for Chris Paul. But if they can't, then they're going to waive Chris Paul because they want the cap space in order to go and get some guys, right? Round out their roster. So the Chris Paul to the Lakers, if that really does become a thing, could end up happening before the draft, which could change a lot, right? Because if Chris Paul comes to the Lakers, well, do you want to keep D'Angelo Russell at this point? Maybe right now the idea is, okay, let's draft the 17th pick. Let's draft the 47th pick. Let's re-sign D'Angelo Russell. But if Chris Paul gets waived, say, next week, and he's like, hey, I'm coming to you guys, now does everything change? Do the Lakers go from like, okay, we're going to draft 17, we're going to draft 47, we're going to keep D'Lo, to like, okay, well, we're going all in, right? Let's package the 17th with D'Lo and the 47 pick. We got Malik Beasley. We got Mo Bamba. Let's put all this together. That can get us to up to, 70 plus million in salary, depending on what you pay D'Angelo Russell. Like, here we go. Let's go, right? We're off to the races. Let's get this done, right? And now you're kind of going and pushing your chips to the table to try to win an NBA championship when you're a team that was just in the Western Conference Finals, right? You add Chris Paul, that kind of changes a lot of perspective. Now, of course, you could keep D'Angelo. You could do the same thing. You don't have to trade D'Lo. You don't have to trade the 17th pick. You don't have to trade the 47th pick. You could kind of keep everybody intact and say, hey, we just add Chris Paul. Maybe you lose Dennis Schroeder, right? Because Dennis Schroeder, he's probably going to want to get paid, and the Lakers can't offer him much more than the vet minimum. So, do they just say, okay, well, let's run it back, but with Chris Paul in Dennis Schroeder's place, and we have the same team, and Chris Paul is an upgrade over Dennis Schroeder, so maybe that's the difference in us winning an NBA championship. That could be a real possibility. But more likely than not, between now and the draft, nothing significant is going to happen with the Lakers, because they can, the Phoenix Suns can essentially wait until the last minute to waive Chris Paul. So there's no like necessary rush to do that. But you would imagine that they would very likely want to get this done sooner rather than later, unless there is some type of like draft, deal that's on the horizon, right? Like that could be something that happens because the draft is June 22nd, I believe off the top of my head. So we're 9 days away from the draft. So the Phoenix Suns could wait till the draft is over, try to see if they could do a deal, and then make the trade or waive Chris Paul. So again, don't get your hopes up that something happens between now and the draft. Very likely the Lakers are going to be in the same spot they're in right now. But there are a lot of questions like, what do? You have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. You were just in the Western Conference Finals. What do you do if you're the Lakers? Do you just say, hey, let's push our chips to the table. Let's go all in. Let's make this push. Let's try to win an NBA championship. Or do you look at it and go, hey, like we have a good team, that this team was just in the Western Conference Finals. Do we run it back? Maybe you do add a Chris Paul and, can you get like a Nas Reed or something like that, right? Do something like that. You add that to this roster, or maybe a Brook Lopez, right? Can you add like a Chris Paul and Brook Lopez? Boom, perfect, right? Now you got a center. Now you got another point guard that can play make and score and do all kinds of stuff. High IQ. Okay, cool. We got those guys. Let's see if we can win an NBA championship now. There is an argument for the Lakers to kind of just stand pat and be patient and kind of just wait to see how things develop. That's a real possibility and something that I'm okay with. I'm all for either way. I trust the Lakers to do what they need to do. I trust the Lakers to get it done. Obviously, you want to win while you can. You have a window here that's still clearly open. Again, they were just in the Western Conference Finals. I know some people look at it and go, yeah, but they got swept by Denver. The Lakers could have easily swept Denver. I mean, those games were super close. And if they would have just had one guy step up, right? If they would have just had like D'Lo give you 15 a game, the Lakers probably win that series. And they probably win the NBA championship, right? So if you get a guy like Chris Paul, question mark obviously is health, but can Chris Paul be the difference with his assists, which generate offense, as well as doesn't have to go get you 20 plus a game. He only has to get you 10 to 15 a game. Like that could be the huge difference. That could be a huge factor. But I don't know. I'm curious to see how the Lakers approach this offseason. I'm excited to see what they do, the changes they make, how they approach this. Because we're here. We're officially in the offseason. And so I expect the Lakers to do the right thing. I trust them to get it done. And I'm excited to see if we can go win an NBA championship this year. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think the Lakers should do? How do you think they approach it? Are you excited for the offseason? I'd love to hear it. Let me know.